To be in top of the industry firms, to be in top of the industry roles, this is something you need to watch. The most unique part about Akshay is he has shown exceptional growth without any MBA, without any tier 1 college, but only relying on his.
When I completed my 10th, there was a peer pressure because all of my family is into science and everyone is a doctor or an engineer.
And you also mentioned that you wanted to pursue CA. So what exactly happened?
I was doing my CA intermediate classes and then I realized that boys are something you cannot even cry in front of your family. So I felt like crying, but then somehow I can't do that.
Deep diving into your preparation phase, let's say you were relying on self-study. What was your formula or study pattern?
One thing that I would say is
coming to the most exciting part, I would say PepsiCo. Big change. How you got to know about this role and pretty much everything. I want to know everything about it.
PepsiCo is something if you want to ace into FMCG and the bigger FMCGs like PepsiCo, Coca-Cola, ITC, the biggest challenge is
supposed to be confidential, but is there any range you can share with our viewers who, let's say if they plan to get into PepsiCo, what range can they expect? Like a CMA with similar 3-4 years of experience.
They can expect somewhere around.
Anyone who's, let's say, starting their career in midst of their career or maybe having midlife crisis, any advice you would like to share?
One advice which is relatable to the Gen Zs or what we can say, even the millennials, I can say that.
So in this new episode of CMA Success Stories, today I have with me Akshay Pawar. Now to tell you the most unique part about Akshay is he has shown exceptional growth without any MBA, without any tier 1 college, but only relying on his skills, CMA degree and his network around him. Today's episode is going to be a special one in the sense if someone is aspiring to be in top of the industry firms, to be in top of the industry roles, this is something you need to watch. Akshay, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you, Aditya.
Yes. So before going ahead, I want to get our viewers, audience comfortable with you. So would you like to share anything about your professional journey?
So I would like to just share that I'm a core FP&A professional and maybe we can walk through the FP&A expertise and the skills that CMA provides throughout the journey.
Okay, great. So to start with your journey, I think one major highlight would be stepping out of BCom, you got into an MNC, Eton, that was your first job. Second job was Deutsche Bank. And third job currently is in PepsiCo.
Yeah.
Okay. My first question would be, back in your days when you decided, okay, I want to get into finance, what was your, let's say, motivation or intention behind getting into this field?
So talking about my school days, my father is a politician, so when I used to visit with him the market operations or what we can say the market committee, so there was a CA who used to come Delhi and he used to show how the market committee is performing. So there what they used to do, they used to do a bidding of grains and they used to sell out into the market and those bookkeeping work was done by the CA over there. So I was inclined towards his passion for numbers. That was one thing that triggered in school days that once after 10th I'll choose a commerce and then maybe do the CA and then step into finance. So that was the stepping career. When I completed my 10th, there was a peer pressure because all of my family is into science and everyone is a doctor or an engineer. So again, but I went out of that comfort zone and then I came back with an option in commerce and then I decided to do my 11th and 12th from Nanded only. It was just a basic college and then I decided after getting a good score in 10th to get into a good tier 1 college for BCom and then maybe I can start with my CA and complete my passion for numbers.
Okay, that's amazing. Well, I've seen a pattern over here that usually someone who's coming in from family of science professionals as an outlier into commerce make it really well in their career. But the interesting part you mentioned was coming out of Nanded, you moved to Pune after 12th standard, right?
Yeah.
For your BCom.
Yes.
Okay. And you also mentioned that you wanted to pursue CA.
Yeah.
So what exactly happened?
So again it was a story of 2018 when I cleared my CPT, which was the entrance level exam back then. Now it's CA foundation. I was doing my CA intermediate classes and then I realized that I don't want to get into a typical accounting, taxation or audit roles. And that was the reason I was searching for alternative options. I came through an option called CFA, CFP and then FRM and so forth. And then I also came across a certification called US CMA, which was more industry focused and it was more into financial analytics. When I say financial analytics, it's basically your FP&A roles, which is more towards analyzing the numbers, interpreting data, and then giving actionable insights to the management. So that is something I was more inclined towards. And one thing that interested me towards this career option was the short-term syllabus, or what I would say, I would not say it a short-term syllabus, but then I would say it is more industry relevant, and it was exactly what I wanted in my career. So that is something I came out of my CA journey and started with a new journey.
Okay, interesting. Just taking you off track a bit, was there anyone you met who was pursuing CMA or was a complete CMA and became your aspirational role over here?
Not like when I decided to do a CMA certification, I just enrolled because my college, which is Brihan Maharashtra College of Commerce, they were providing a specialization called strategic finance, in which they cover CMA over a span of 2 years. I enrolled over there, and then fortunately I met you in some of the coaching institutes where we interacted, and I got to know that CMA certification has really worth when it comes to MNC. In domestic companies, I would say it is still in growing phase, but MNCs do recognize it, and it has a good value due to his expertise into management accounting and financial decision making and performance management. So, and then when I joined IMA Pune chapter under your leadership, I seeked your guidance, and that was useful. Then I slowly started building professional network.
By the way, if you have missed it out, under my leadership and my guidance, that's something to add. No.
Yeah.
So just to give you context, in let's say earlier phase of my career, when I was let's say working with Deutsche Bank or FIS, I used to meet a lot of young lads who were pursuing CMA, and I used to give them a direction ki acha, do this XYZ thing, I think it should be fine for you. Worked for me, worked for others as well, and I think he's part of that league where students met. I just gave some guidance, some mentorship, and it worked wonders for them. But yeah, you got into IMA Pune chapter, and I think you got idea about the overall exposure of CMA.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So when you stepped out of BCom, did you feel that I should go for maybe masters, or was it always a plan कि okay, I'll do CMA and I'll get into a job? And by the way, did you complete CMA during BCom itself, or थोड़ा time लगा ज़्यादा?
I feel very proud to say that amongst 11 students who were from our batch, I was the only one to complete CMA within the graduation period.
Okay, congrats, man.
Thank you. And then it was always a plan to go for an MBA, but again I gave it a thought that MBA with work ex would always be a beneficial. So right after my BCom and CMA certification, I was always inclined towards doing at least 2 to 3 years of job experience and then maybe go for a master's.
Okay. So 2 to 3 years of experience with masters, even somewhere I echo the same feedback that has worked really well for a lot of people around me. So taking a bit off topic and getting into CMA journey. Acha, before that, one special thing about Akshay is, Akshay is someone jiske stories मैं बताता हूँ. In the sense, when I meet my mentors, my teachers, I get to hear a lot of them saying that Aditya, you are an example which we share with others. For me, Akshay is that example where he completed his CMA along with BCom, extremely focused on his studies. Secondly, I usually observe a starting point which is very different for a lot of students. Someone who is, let's say, born and brought up in Pune, Mumbai, versus someone coming from, let's say, outside city, settling in Pune. There are additional challenges which students face. Overcoming that, competing with, let's say, your peers at par, then overshadowing others to emerge at a level which is truly aspirational. I think Akshay stand out in those terms.
Thanks, Aditya.
Okay. So coming to here, and the interesting part is also around his numbers. I'll come to that later. But when I look at his career, I usually say that, Akshay is one person who has achieved so much in so less time that he might not even need an MBA, looking at where he is right now. But okay, we'll come to his interesting part. I know a lot of people want to know CMA, अच्छा फिर salary क्या है? But we'll keep that for later. Coming back to your CMA journey, did you do self-preparation or did you join a coaching institute as such?
So as I said, I was doing specialization from a college where they, what we can say, expose the syllabus over a span of 2 years. And then it was integrated with education, but there was a gap. What I wanted was, I wanted to complete my CMA with the graduation. So I had just 2 years. And then I wouldn't have waited for the coaching or the professors over there to, what we can say, to pace up with my routine. So what I did was I started relying on myself. I used the hawk material. I started preparing myself, and then whenever I used to get some doubt, so I used to go back to Google, YouTube, and then maybe develop a own self understanding, and that's how I completed my syllabus. And then major role was the self study. So I was more focused, and that is the only reason I could clear it. I was not dependent on coaching institutes.
Okay. So let's say deep diving into your preparation phase, let's say you were relying on self-study. What was your formula or study pattern? Means did you go, let's say, refer any specific publication? Did you read those books? Did you have access to any video lectures, question bank?
Yeah. So like had given us a video access of their own institute plus the hawk material and OTB access. So I went through as well and hawk books as well, but then the language I used to get it was difficult for me to understand. So I used the hawk material, which is I would say the hawk material is something that even a layman can understand their language. So I relied on that. And one thing that I would say is consistency. Even if you are studying for 1 hour, 2 hours daily, and suddenly you cannot study for 3-4 days, that would be difficult in your preparation later. So keep a consistency. Even if you don't have time, at least listen or revise your things for 15-20 minutes. Even if you are on vacations, on holidays, doesn't matter. So consistency is one point. And second point is I drill down the syllabus into specific portions. Let's say a few chapters. So I used to understand those chapters in a very deep way, because US CMA is something. When you go for an exam, they test your application or they test your knowledge. So rather than memorizing, I focused heavily on what we can say understanding the concepts. So I drilled down in specific chapters and I used to focus and understand their concepts and then only move on to other. So that is something that helped me. And when I complete the syllabus or when I complete the specific portion, I used to solve their own question bank and then go back to OTB and solve that. And this is how it gave me exposure of how the exam really looks like or how to manage time.
Okay. So interestingly, one of the hot topics going on in our class is case study preparation. Now it comes to where I teach. Of course, I take preparation of my students, but someone who's opted for self-study. What was your take? Like, how did you prefer for case studies?
See, first and foremost thing I feel is you don't need to prepare for case studies separately. Because if you have a deep understanding of concepts, case studies are just what we can say, just like the MCQs that you solve. Unless and until you have an understanding of concepts, you cannot solve the case scenarios. So in my case also I did same. I just solved a few of the case scenarios which were there in CMA retired question bank. So apart from that, I didn't even opt for the what we can say hawk or any other TB's case scenarios. So I think be ready with your conceptual knowledge. That is something that will help you excel your case. So unless if you are memorizing the concepts, of course it will not help you. So no need to prepare separately as such. If you have a good understanding of concepts, that will ace you.
Okay, thank you for saying this. This is something I share with my students as well, but they are like, "Nahi sir, we have to practice it." But now you are hearing from an expert that if you know a concept well enough, maybe a month before your exam start with IMA support package, the solved case studies are good enough as a practice.
Right.
Okay. Next, the main question, hot topic, how much time or months it took to complete your CMA?
So like, as I said, I relied on self-study. So it took me almost 9 to 10 months for part 1 and same for part 2. So it was a long process, but then again with coaching and timely preparations, you can even complete both the parts within a year.
Within a year.
Yeah.
So that's ideally what even I tell students. 6 months, if you have a coaching, of course 6 months is doable.
Right.
For working professional with some background in finance, maybe 4 months are fine.
Right.
But yeah, okay, that's amazing. Next, do you still recall the day when you completed your CMA? How was that day?
I do recall, because part 1 was no surprise for me, because part 1 exam, it was very easy for me and I was confident that I'll get through. But then when it came to part 2, like, I was not so confident that I'll get through. Obviously the essay window had opened, but then in MCQs I thought that I didn't do better. So I was confused whether I'll get into it or not, or should I start preparing or not. But then I think September 1 was the result date, if I'm not wrong. And then when I opened my email, I was surprised. I mean, and you know that you are like boys are something you cannot even cry in front of your family. So I felt like crying, but then somehow I can't do that. But then it was a real, what we can say, it was something very achievable for me, and it was the biggest achievement that I did during my graduation, because if you see my learning curve in 10th, I was failed in both science and maths. That is why I came into commerce. So from 74% to 78%, and then to a good CGPA and acing CMA exams amongst all your 11 colleagues. That is something incredible, I feel.
Amazing, yeah. That's quite nice. Okay, coming to, that was a wholesome moment you shared. Thanks for sharing that. So next part is where I want to explore your corporate journey. So let's say I've completed your CMA now by TY BCom, and I think you got into Eton. So
Yeah.
how did that happen?
So Eton was a campus placement. When campus placement came, it was a COVID time, I guess, and we had our online interviews. At that point of time, I was a semi-qualified CMA with my part 1 qualified, so that is something that didn't sell out at my interview time. But then when I went into Eton, I worked into supply chain, and that is where I called you also before joining. I called you that it's a supply chain profile, should I step into or not? So, and you said that it's always good to have a job, and then maybe you can progress later. And then fortunately, I joined in August 2021. By that time, I gave my exams, and September is something I shared my results. I worked into supply chain risk management team, which was more towards managing the supplier risk with the help of tool called Resilink. So it's a very powerful tool, and it was in deployment phase at the time of Resilink. And there was a small portion of finance analysis that I used to do. So there is something called Red Health Financial Analysis, so which I used to do for the suppliers. So category managers used to come that this is a high risk supplier in so and so region. I want a financial health analysis for this supplier. So again, we used to go back to the US, because you know that in US there are very strict compliances related to private companies. You don't have access to private company data, not even a single financial number. So there was a company called Rapid Ratings from which we used to get data, and they charged around $2,200, $2,300 per company.
Oh.
So I used to get the report in a raw format, like these are the volumes, this is what we can say, this is GR, this is NR, and so forth are the KPIs. So, and I used to analyze that report and provide actionable insight that this was 23 data, this was 2020 data, this was 2019 data, and they have grown by so and forth, and they are declined by so and so forth. So that is something that I used to share. So that was the only portion of finance that I encountered for the 6-7 months when I joined in supply risk management team. But fortunately, there was an opening that came up in supply chain finance team, and I had a very good relation with my manager. Obviously, I would say that professional network is something, if you build, you don't need any, what we can say, any job portals to apply for a job or something like that. You can get through easily with your professional network. So I had a very good network with with my manager, and obviously the recruiting manager was a BMCC alumni, Sachin Wagh. So I approached to my manager that this is something that I'm inclined towards, and there is a policy that you cannot take an IGP. IGP is internal job posting, and there is a criteria of minimum 18 months. You need to complete in a current profile, and then only you are eligible. But then my manager was very supportive. But the deal was, if I crack it, then only it's yours. I'll get you through the interview, but then I cannot help you get the job. If you ace it, that's fine. So I was competing with 2 CAs.
Okay.
I gave an interview in a very good way. Obviously, the recruiting manager asked me a lot of questions that what is CMA, because he was also not knowing what is CMA certification, and I was a qualified CMA at that point of time. So I would say that you need to sell yourself. You need to sell your expertise. So I told him that this is the skills that I learned in my CMA certification, and I need an entry level job where I can apply this and maybe ace later. And then I cracked that interview. And then I went into what we can say financial insights team, which was dealing into more towards supply chain finance of Eton.
Amazing.
So I went over there with a 67% hike, I would say, within 6 months.
Amazing.
With CMA certification, because I was able to sell it.
Exactly. Just to note, competing with 2 CAs, he made it through.
Yeah. So that is something I went, and that was a stepping stone into financial planning and analysis. that was the start of my real FP&A journey.
Hmm.
And then from there, the journey went onwards.
True. You know, so many times students come up and say, sir, ye certification best, XYZ best. It's like not about the certification, it's about the candidate.
Right.
Certification helps you, but if you build yourself enough, if you are able to sell yourself,
Right.
bottom line, you can get through.
And again, like just to add, no certification can guarantee you a job. Certification just harness your skills. It gives you more advantage than what's a bachelor or master's degree gives you. It gives you a deeper understanding of financials. Maybe if you're doing CMA, it will give a broader understanding of management accounting, financial analysis, performance management, cost management. If you are doing any other certifications, they are expertise in those areas. That doesn't mean if you are a CMA, it will guarantee you a job. You need to sell your expertise.
So again, just taking a step back, let's say you completed your BCom and maybe 1 or 2 odd years in Eton. During this time, did you spend any extra time and effort on learning, let's say, skill outside your job in terms of, let's say, Excel, financial modeling, anything like this?
So fortunately, during COVID, IMA had made many of their resources free.
Online.
So I did data visualization analytics certificate from there,
Yes.
which is a very good certification, I would say. If you are someone, obviously it's a must. Now with financial and analysis, there is a skill set called data visualization. If you are able to visualize that complex data into graphic format, nothing like that. So that is one certificate, and second one was I am a blockchain certificate. But then again, it was just a basic understanding of how blockchain works or what is the sequence. So those were the two, and Excel is something that I learned, because Excel is the bread and butter of any finance professional.
True.
No matter what technology comes, but Excel is something that you need to do. So these were something that I learned during the COVID before joining my first company itself.
Nice. So interestingly, glad you mentioned blockchain. It's a nightmare certification for me. So IMA had a very basic, like fundamentals of
Right.
blockchain, something like that. वो सीख के when I had a call from IM Kozhikode. So when you get a call, there's a form sent to you, and there's a section where you have to mention all your certifications. So I'm like CMA, FRM, data analytics, blockchain, सब कुछ डाल दिया था. And during my interview, somehow the interviewer got interested in blockchain. It's like, tell me everything you know about blockchain. And I could only tell basic things. She's like, no, tell me application of blockchain in supply chain. Like, okay, give me 2 minutes. I couldn't answer that. So learning certifications is one thing, but deeper understanding ke liye you might have to go a notch. But yeah, starting point, it serves really well. Okay, coming to your again corporate journey. So I think you spent around how much time in Eton?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Okay, and what triggered? What was your motivation behind this switch?
So like again, as a aspiring professional, you always look towards money, but then that was something that didn't fascinate me, because Eton was really paying me good. But then there was a change in leadership, and there were changes in roles, obviously, and I would say that my role was I was becoming stagnant in that role. So nothing new was coming my way. Obviously there were many things that I was doing, but then I felt that I did whatever I want to done in this role. So I started looking for a job. So that is something like, obviously, new career aspirations, new growth, and new, what we can say, diverse career path was something. Along from the manufacturing, I wanted to step into BFSI, because I was always inclined towards investment banking. So that was something that I was looking for, because I thought that I gained a good amount of experience now. At least I can get into a FP&A or corporate finance type profiles into BFSI, and then maybe I can take my future ahead with the BFSI sector only.
Okay, nice. So before getting to next chapter of Deutsche Bank, if you are comfortable, would you like to share either a range or a maybe approx number of you getting into Eton with 67% hike? At what level did you reach? And then
So I started with Eton at 4 LP as a part of campus hire. Then eventually I got at 7 when I promoted at 67%. Then I was earning around 8 to 9 with initial promotions and bonus. And then after that I switched
to Deutsche Bank with?
I would say before switching to Deutsche Bank is a very interesting chapter. Again,
I think you had one more offer, right? We discussed at that time.
I had Johnson Controls offer.
Johnson Controls, exactly.
So Johnson Controls, again, it was a referral from one of my senior colleague who went over there, and he was a deputy manager over there.
Nice.
So he referred me in his team only, FP&A team. So I went through it. I got, and there I was expecting at least 40% fix.
Okay.
They gave me, so the total component was 55% appraisal on what I was earning on the CTC part.
Okay.
So 40% it was hike, 10% obviously it was the variable pay, and 5% it was floating. Again, I was looking for more options, because you always know that they are providing this much money, maybe I can explore and maybe I can get even better.
Exactly.
So again, there was a opening in Deutsche, and fortunately on LinkedIn I saw that, and few of my mutual connections followed that. And one of the mutual connection was from Eton, who was a very good senior colleague of me.
Oh,
I
nice.
told him that so and so opening is there, and do you know this guy? And he fortunately told that this is the same guy with whom I worked in Citibank. So they both were colleagues in Citibank, and that guy was hiring in Deutsche. So he told me that, so I told him that I worked with you, you observed my work and all those things, so could you please refer me? He told me that share your resume. We were sitting in a meeting room, share your resume. He sent it to my recruiting manager over there, and he called me within 10 minutes.
Oh.
So are you free for interview tomorrow?
Amazing.
I went through the interview, and Deutsche interview was more towards what we can say financials. It was deeper understanding of P&L, balance sheet, and then second level it was more towards business case scenarios. And third one is obviously it's a negotiation part, and then fortunately I would say I had an offer of 120% hike on the CTC part of what
Eton.
I was earning in Eton.
Right. Okay, that's how you land big numbers, guys. But yeah, I think here I'll highlight two shortcuts, or I would say tricks to ramp up your numbers. One is either you get promoted and immediately after promotion hike ke upar hike.
Yeah,
That is one way to
right.
go. And second is when you have one offer, you can always explore a
Right.
better offer.
You can always play around.
Yes, amazing. So getting into Deutsche Bank,
But that is not advisable.
not advisable. What happens? I'll tell you one more thing. I had a friend in IIM Lucknow who after college got an offer from Accenture, and then he moved around. He got another better offer, so he didn't join Accenture after receiving offer letter properly rolled out. Later on, he had a decent career. He made it to IIM Lucknow, and IIM Lucknow, there is a premier arm of Accenture that is called Accenture Strategy. That showed up, was paying more than 30 lakh rupees at CTC. This guy got shortlisted. When the documentation was sent, now he's selected, he's out of the placement process. But when the documentation started, the company got to know that this guy is,
Already rejected.
selected, agreed on an offer and didn't join. And the system showed this guy is blacklisted. They can't hire him. So end of the day, he was in a very tricky situation. Of course, then college called up, helped him get another offer, but he missed out on such a great opportunity. So you never know, very less probability of such thing happening, but something to note, not
Right.
extremely advisable. Okay, coming to your Deutsche chapter. I think that was a short-lived chapter.
9 months.
9 months only.
Yeah.
Okay, as good as having a kid. Bad joke. Coming to this 9th month phase, what led you to move so quickly, and how was your experience overall?
So I got into Deutsche into COO domain, which basically manages the financials for the technology software engineers. So COO is one of the biggest domain in Deutsche Bank, which primarily work with investment banking and anti-financial crime technology. So 90% there are engineers from premier institutes who work on the back-end coding of the softwares that Deutsche uses for their clients. And we were a small team of COO who used to manage financials budgets for that team. So again, I was into FP&A. We used to drill down the budgets, like what would be the budgets, base salary. I was also into planning headcounts. So we stepped from 1400 to 1800, and that was the domain from where what we can say the starting salary starts from 35 LPA. Because we do hire only from premier IITs, IIT Bombay, Kanpur and Kharagpur.
Okay.
We used to manage the financials, and it was a very big number. But again, as a organized bank, obviously most of the things were structured, most of the things were streamlined, and at the end of the day, I do have a lot of bandwidth that I don't understand what to do. Because the work was very less. Obviously, I was getting into what we can say comfort zone. Every Friday we used to go for parties and all those things. BFSI, it's very common. I don't wanted to go into a comfort zone at a very early stage of my career. So I decided to move on and choose a company where I can what we can say, where I don't even have a time to eat.
Oh.
So that was something I went ahead.
Okay, amazing. I mean, just observing him throughout the phase, one thing I've observed about him is interacting with him when he was in, let's say, college versus Eton versus Deutsche Bank, and now Zameen Asman ka farak hai. That delta I can see. So when you move to, let's say, out of Deutsche Bank or rather Eton Deutsche Bank, would you like to highlight any tools that are available in open source, not let's say private or customized tools, but anything that could help our viewers to, let's say, drill down and learn?
So first and foremost thing is obviously not any tool, but focused on your Excel skills. When I say Excel skills, not the basic VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, you need to get more into some if else, or what we can say advanced functions, where you can simplify the data in what we can say in such a way that even a layman can understand. And VBA macros within the Excel is something that you can, VBA macros is obviously a coding language, and it's not that difficult, and it will help you automate most of your tasks, even the bigger data sets. That is one thing. And second one is obviously you can focus on your data visualization tools like Power BI, Tableau. I'm not saying go into a back-end coding, but then at least you should have a basic understanding that how the report will look like if I put the data into these tools. So you should have a good knowledge as to how I can show the data in a visualization format, which will be beneficial to the leadership, or say it would be very easy to read. So these two tools you can do. And third one is obviously, like, there are specific tools. If you are coming into FP&A, obviously there is HFM that is widely used during the MNCs. It's a planning tool basically. So once the number is plugged into HFM, it goes into your P&L balance sheet. So, but again, that is something that is not available openly, but you will learn that in what we can say on process.
Okay.
Apart from that, I think you are good with your Excel, data visualization tool, and then again you can do this Power Automate. Power Automate is again a free resource provided by Google. Power Automate is again like macros VBA. It is also used to what we can say automate your data, most of the data. That is something you can learn.
Nice. One thing I observed, so when I was in Deutsche Bank, I was part of risk unit, but the accounting close used to sit next to us, and I used to oftenly go there. Some of our BMCC recruits used to work there, and I used to see them chilling around a lot. And then when one day I want to sit down and see what you guys do, and all she was doing was running macros, generating reports, just highlighting few numbers and sending it as a report.
Right.
So okay, now I understand the bandwidth part and the work part as well. Okay, makes sense. Coming to the most exciting part, I would say PepsiCo, from Pune to Hyderabad. Okay, big change. How you got to know about this role and pretty much everything. I want to know everything about this.
So like I was already searching for my job back in March this year, 2024. I was looking for a job, and like I listed myself on Naukri, LinkedIn and so platforms. One and find I received a call that this is a location. Are you comfortable with relocation? Obviously that was the biggest part.
Any specific platform that led you to this call, Naukri or LinkedIn ऐसे कुछ?
I don't know. I think it was Naukri.
Okay.
Yeah. So the call came, and I said I'm okay with relocation. Obviously it is closer to my hometown. It's just 4 hours. So I said okay. So the interview was scheduled after a week with my recruiting manager, who is based out of Egypt. I had a very good conversation with them. But then PepsiCo is something, if you want to ace into FMCG and the bigger FMCGs like PepsiCo, Coca-Cola, ITC, the biggest challenge is competitive environment. Because here you will see 90% people working in finance domain are chartered accountants, and you have to cope up with their skill set, because obviously they come up with a what we can say wide variety of skill set. They are into financial management also, they are into accounting also, they are into taxation, GST, all those parts also. Obviously again this was something that was challenging for me as well, because they were simultaneously looking for a better candidate. Obviously it goes on. Again, like where I had a very good interview with my recruiting manager, who is based out of Egypt, and she is looking for a business of Gulf region, India, Nepal and Bhutan. Okay. So I would say my best experience with the PepsiCo interview was their focus on business case scenarios. So as a candidate, they will make you understand a case study, and then they'll understand from you what are your insights on this case study, or let's say what does your business acumen say on these scenarios. So that was something that was really challenging. But what they focused more on is how effectively you communicate your inputs on that case study to them in an effective manner. So that was one challenging point. And second part was obviously the relocation, because not everyone is comfortable with the relocation, that too in the south, because it comes with a lot of language barrier issues and cultural differences and all those things. And third thing was obviously PepsiCo expects more. If you are a non-CA, any FMCG company expects more than a CA.
Okay, interesting.
And again, I would have sold myself in a very nice way into financial planning and analysis. And again, when I say FMCG, they again drill down into each and every line item of P&L, balance sheet. They understand even how the provision is made, why the provision is made, why the depreciation is made, how do you account it for in balance sheet, how in P&L items. They drill down into each and every P&L item. The interviews goes for 40-45 minutes because they want to understand that how deep your knowledge is with regards to financials. Because as I say, all your recruiting managers in FMCGs, mostly they will be a CA or they will be MBA from tier 1 colleges, at least in good FMCGs. So they expect you to be expertise, to have that expertise and have that skill set. One thing that stood out for me was I already did my data visualization tools, and in Deutsche and in Eton, I used to have a monthly review calls with leadership. So where I used to present the results for the month, where I used to show what is my actual performance versus my forecast versus my plan, and where we are lagging. And I was good on the presentation side also. That is something that that went ahead in the PepsiCo, because here also I do the same. After the month closes, we do variance analysis. Then I used to sit with the leadership and then drill down like what is my actual performance and why there is a gap. And then we go back to the unit managers that there is a gap of 2 million in South. Why the sale is not happening? Because we are spending so much on advertising. There is also a KPI that I track, which is return on marketing investment. So we hire brand ambassadors like MS Dhoni, Sara Ali Khan, Ranbir Kapoor. We are paying heavy amount of fees to them. Still the sale is not happening. So where is the gap? So I look after that KPIs also. And again, my experience in Deutsche and Eton was very smooth. In FP&A, I would say that it is something that would have made me possible for PepsiCo, because your knowledge in budgeting and forecasting is must if you are going into FP&A. Obviously the tools differs. Here, as I said, HFM is something that is common across the industries, but in PepsiCo we are using different tools which is designed as per their requirement. So here we use Cockpit, Mosaic, which is again a HFM, but then it has a different environment which is designed specifically. So better understanding of FP&A, management accounting, and then I would say better understanding of financials. It's something that is very important. And apart from that, your technical skills, Excel should be like
top notch.
It should be top notch.
Amazing. The most hot topic, I would say. Would you like now? I don't want him to share the actual number. When you get into a job, at least when you are present in that company, it's supposed to be confidential. But is there any range you can share with our viewers to, let's say, if they plan to get into a PepsiCo? What range can they expect, like a CMA with similar 3-4 years of experience?
They can expect somewhere around 14 to 17. But then again, it depends from team to team what budget they have. Because as I said, because the salary depends from team to team. Corporate finance people will have different range of salaries. They might have different bands. Then unit level, they have different bands. So it depends. But with 2-3 years of experience, 3 years of experience, you can expect something around 14 to 17.
Okay. Which is range of a lot of B school packages who fall under, let's say, right after the Blackie category. When we talk about IIM Udaipur or some other colleges which are doing quite well, that's the range. And within 2 to 3 years, I'm pretty confident that he'll be 20 plus, which will again match with Blackie level IIMs or even IITs and ISBs of the world. So that, when I mentioned that there is a reason why I think he doesn't need an MBA, because his salary is actually matching to that level. So he actually, if he steps out, now that's my personal opinion, but if you step out of your role, you have an opportunity cost of around 40 lakh lying around.
Right.
That's going to be a tough decision for you to take. But amazing. So before closing today's conversation, any advice in terms? Acha, before that, I have actually an interesting question. Knowing what you know right now, let's say if you were given a chance to restart your career as an 18-year-old kid, how would you plan it? Would you plan it differently? Anything better you could have done?
Obviously. So first and foremost thing is my professional network. So I would have built my professional networks by attending various events conducted by the certification. Even the CMA conducts various events, CFA conducts various events, then ACCA conducts various events. So I would have went there, I would have actually met the professionals who are actually working into the industry. I would have gathered their insights, and collectively I would have altered my decision making process. Apart from that, I would have joined programs like Toastmasters, which is obviously one of the most effective program for communications, you can say. And then I would have more actively participated in co-curricular activities into the college, which would have better built my leadership abilities. Obviously, I went there after my masters, but then I would have built it when I was in college itself. And then I would have learned what we can say, I would have learned basic financial analysis sense. How? Through business case scenarios, because if you see the various newspapers like even Business Studies, even Bloomberg, the Mint, they have business case scenarios. I would have learnt that. I would have built my business acumen, how actually the brands are operating. And obviously professional network, meeting new professionals, industry expert is something that I regret now, but it would have elevated my career in another level.
Chalo, in continuation of this flow, let's go prospective now. So knowing what you know right now, and let's say looking around your network where you are, let's say, well connected with CFOs of different companies, how are you planning your next 10 years?
So like first and foremost thing, I want to build my business acumen. That I'm building slowly, because in FMCG you get to know a lot of things, how these businesses are operating globally, because if you see PepsiCo, it's more than $90 billion business. And in India only, it's more than 10,000 CR and one of the leading, what we can say, wafers company. So building business acumen is something that I'm focusing over the period of 2-3 years, and then maybe I'm planning to step into leadership roles wherein I will be posted as a finance controller, and then I'll take my career path forward with what we can say director, financial planning, and so forth.
Okay, so more or less CFO in 8 to 10 years. Nice.
Let's see.
Fingers crossed.
Yes.
No problem. Okay. So coming to our very last question, before closing this, is there any advice, I would say as a elder brother, sharing word of wisdom with viewers in terms of planning their career ahead? Our average viewership is right from 16 to, it even goes up to 35. So in this range, anyone who's, let's say, starting their career in midst of their career, or maybe having midlife crisis, any advice you would like to share?
One advice which is relatable to the Gen Zs, or what we can say even the millennials, I can say that like doing any certification or your professional journey is like a binge watching. In first episode you will feel like what is happening, but second episode comes up, third episode comes up, you are hooked up. You are more interested. So the CMA certification or any other certification, your professional life also same. You will feel like what am I doing? But then one thing that you need to note, that you are battling with your own life. Your friends are doing better than you, that doesn't mean you should also do. Take your own handsome time, take your own pathways. I think one more important thing today is you should have a mentor. It can be your teacher, it can be your coaching institute, professors, or it can be anyone who can guide you on your path, who can guide you, decide your career path, who can guide you or influence your decision making, I would say. That is something very important. And second part is, as I said, don't fall prey for peer pressure. My friends are doing this certification, I should also do. So talk to your mentors, alter your career goals with those certifications or whatever you want to pursue in your life. Have a mentor. That is something I would advise. Everything else will be taken care by your mentor. He'll guide you, he'll support you, and then he'll help you define your career path in a better way.
Awesome. Cool. So rounding back to me, if you need any, let's say, any suggestion, any doubts, if you want to pass on any question to Akshay, our comment section is open. If you like the video, do not forget to press the thumbs up button. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.